some of the world's most brilliant minds in cybersecurity. My name is Kyla Guru. I'm 16 years old and I'm a junior at Deerfield High School in Deerfield, Illinois. I'm so excited to learn from each and every one of you and hopefully plant a seed about some of the changes that we need to see in the cybersecurity industry and how each and every one of the corporations and companies represented here today and the individuals here today can help us catalyze that change starting right now. But first, let me explain this from the student perspective. At the beginning of chemistry this year, my teacher gave each and every one of us our very own lab safety contracts. These contracts outline what to do and what not to do in the lab, who to talk to if anything went wrong, and how to handle ourselves near all the equipment. But the funny thing is, we've been reading the same exact lab contract for the past 7 years, and we practically know it like the back of our hands. But each and every year, our teacher gives us this contract, we read, study, and memorize it for the test. And what this lab safety contract represents is how the school system, through repetition, has embedded this value of physical safety in the student population. In fact, physical safety has been an important priority of ours for quite some time now. In 1943, American psychologist Abraham Maslow created what he called Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, ranking humanity's most basic human essentials up until the point of self-actualization, which he defined as humanity's most creative point and fulfillment in life. And although in 2019, most of our hierarchies of needs look a little like this, in 1943, before the internet age, Maslow's hierarchy of needs looked like this. And what he said was that safety and security were humanity's second most important basic essential needed in order to reach the point of self-actualization. But everyone in this room knows that Maslow was talking about physical security, so keeping your possessions safe and locking your car before you leave. Everyone in this room knows that right now we are switching to a train of thought from having safety and security as the second most important basic need to digital and cyber safety and security as humanity's most basic need. But I did not see the American school system shifting the values this way. So I wanted to learn more about cybersecurity. I had been seeing all these things on the news, things about data breaches, nation-state attacks, cyber attacks, and I wanted to learn more. So what I did was I went to a one-week Gen Cyber Camp at Purdue University, where I met some of the world's most fascinating research professors and mentors there, who I've still kept in touch with today. And what I did was I gained these connections, and I went home and I did more research, and I connected with these connections, and I went to more conferences, and I really got myself invested in the conversation of cybersecurity at hand. And I came back to my community, and I wanted to do something to impact the community and the schools that were in our district. So I reached out and I sent an email to my old principal at the elementary school, and I asked him what I could do to help them with their cybersecurity curriculum. And they said that they had no such thing, but they would be willing for me to produce a 5-minute animation video that I could show their K-5 students about cybersecurity. So I did exactly that, and when I went in to present this video, I could see how students' eyes lit up right when I started talking and said the words cybersecurity and privacy. They had never heard these words before, but suddenly they were starting to hold themselves accountable for their own online and digital safety and security. So from this video, I realized that there was a need, there was a curiosity in the public to learn more about safety and security online. This was in the consumers, the user end situation. So what we did is we created Bits and Bytes Cyber Security Education, a now national nonprofit that is dedicated to educating and equipping vulnerable populations across the board from the ages of 5 to the ages of 95 and above with the cybersecurity risk and threat mitigation techniques needed for the future of technology. And now we have grown into a movement synergizing security and building unity through security. Now we function in over 144 schools across the world in places like Singapore and Saudi Arabia and New Zealand. And we're even bringing curriculum into Puerto Rico, which is a country still reeling from the effects of Hurricane Maria 2 years after the hurricane. And what we're seeing is that in a time of political and social divisiveness, security is bringing communities together, this mutual interest and this mutual curiosity in how do we make cybersecurity a priority for everyone. So how Bits and Bytes works is the threefold. So number one, we work in awareness. And we work in building awareness through our blog that's pushed out bi-weekly to schools, answering some of the most trending questions and topics in cybersecurity. Number two is in-person training. We get these students in a room, we tell them to ask as many questions as possible, raise their hand, and really interact with our curriculum and material. Number three is advocacy. Building a worldwide conversation about cybersecurity and connecting consumers to the corporate level security that's happening, and making sure that that conversation is transparent and free-flowing. And all this does, what this does is we're strengthening our human firewall, democratizing cybersecurity, and strengthening our democracy that we have at hand today. But what are we missing? What are we missing in cybersecurity that we do not have today, and what do we need more of? Well, I think it's Generation Z. Generation Z is big, bold, and here to stay. We're bashing all of the norms that are out there, saying that you need a certain amount of degrees, qualifications, and certifications in order to make tangible impact on the world. I mean, I'm a high schooler. So what we're doing right now is we're really catalyzing social change by empowering Generation Z. And I'm here to tell you today that you can do the same, starting from your own home. And the reason why this is important, number one, is because we are the biggest users of technology out there today. We basically live and breathe technology, and we spend 80% of our waking days online. I mean, we've never lived without being able to say, just Google it to someone. So technology is our new lab. Technology is what we need to reshape and restructure and make a lab safety contract for. It's what we need our students to be accustomed to. And the other reason why this is so critical is because of the skills gap that you all have probably heard over and over again. We are about to experience a major skills gap in security and have over 450 million open jobs in security just by 2022. So the reason why this is important is if we start building those skills from the K through 8 level, getting those students to start to talk about security and privacy, then they will have a mutual interest and a reason to care about it when they grow up and create a cyber defense army around them. And what does this require from the adult level? When you go home and talk to your kid, when you go home and empower your child, what does this require? Well, I think it requires us shifting some of the big questions that we're asking our young people today. Number one, we ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? But I think this needs to shift to what kind of impact do you want to be making right now? What do you want to be doing right now, and how can I answer your questions? How can I mentor you so that you are fully prepared to enter the industry in whatever you're interested in, and whatever you want to make an impact in? And this is what I think is so magical and what has been such a rewarding part of Bits and Bytes Cyber Security Education, is seeing how we're a for-youth, by-youth organization, creating curriculum that caters directly into classrooms and allow every child to engage directly with cybersecurity and privacy material. And for some of these kids, we are teaching it from the start, from the first time that they touch a device and power it on. And if we start to do that, then security can become second nature for these children, which is all the more power in the future. So how do we shift the focus for the mighty Gen Zennials, and how do we include them and invest them in the conversation and hold them accountable? Number one, our education system has the power to transform. And that's one thing, the one example I give is the science safety contract. But there are so many examples of this. But just through the safety contract, we see how students have gained a mutual sense of unity around this fact of physical safety in the lab. We know that every time we step into the lab, we are held accountable for our safety and security and our safety around the chemicals. But how about online? But this transformation starts at home. It starts with each and every one of you in the audience going home and teaching your child about security, teaching them the fundamentals from the very first time they interact with devices. Number 2, follow this and foster this intellectual curiosity that's already in our young people today. So I still remember this one conversation I was having with one of my closest friends, where our dinner conversation, we were eating noodles, and our dinner conversation turned from talking about a post that someone had made on social media to, Kyla, how is data stored on Snapchat versus my iPhone? And that was the moment when I realized that we have a generation who is curious and wants transparency. But we need to cater to that, and we need to answer those questions so that they feel like they're safe and secure online. And they feel like they can empower others and own their technology by being safe and secure. And this especially has to happen after we see these headlines in the news. We are bombarded as young people through our feeds and feeds of all these news stories. But we want to really understand what's happening. We want to know what's happening when it says cyber attack. What does that mean? What does that mean for our devices, for our security? Are we at risk? We want to know what a breach means and how far that breach goes. So answering these questions right when we see them will transform everything for students. Number 3, transforming lessons into interaction. Generation Z and Generation Alpha is all about instant gratification. We love our notifications and our feeds and all of that. So transforming classroom lessons, transforming these things in the classroom, not even in the classroom, but even when corporations come and do these socially engaging activities, they have to be engaging and cause that interaction with kids to answer their questions. Number 4, we are all about social media. We get most of our news on social media. So we need to cater these cybersecurity tips and tricks right on the social media platforms where we exist and where we are. And these include Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, BuzzFeed, and Snapchat. So catering this curriculum, catering what we want to teach them, right on the platforms where they're already found. That's how we make it second nature for these individuals. And then, shifting media representation. I mean, the first time when I felt like I could be a woman in technology that empowers change in the world was when I saw Felicity Smoke on The Arrow. And honestly, she is one cybersecurity female who's just represented through media. And she is one who is a superhero working in the dark scene, and seeing this really transformed the way that I saw role models. So if we can start to shift, if corporations and all of the power in this room today can start to shift the media representation of role models in cybersecurity, the amount of kids we will see in the pipeline will completely change. And the fact of diversity and inclusion that Generation Z is already so passionate about will be emphasized and highlighted even more. And I believe, and most of the crowd believes today, that we are here to work together to make the world better. We are here to make security and connect consumers to corporate security and make that better, make lives better. And I truly believe that with partnership with Bytes and Bytes Cyber Security Education, we can do that. We can transform the world, transform the pipeline that we're seeing, starting from sharing our open source curriculum and sharing that with your boardrooms, classrooms, the student groups that you interact with. That's how we start the conversation and cause change. We also are partnering with organizations like Facebook now to roll out new programs like a fellowship program for women in cybersecurity. We're also talking to companies and seeing how we can connect consumers right to the corporate security and have that level of transparency, but also get them to understand that data breaches are a part of security. They're a part of being a consumer. If we can get consumers to understand that and start to protect their data even more, then that's what security is about. That's how we can transform and make the world better. A reminder that we are only as strong as the weakest link. If we can strengthen and empower populations, imagine how strong all of our links can be, and imagine how strong our chain can be Because really, we are creating this human firewall. When we start to talk to classrooms about this information, and when we start to talk to young people about this information, we start to transform their minds and shift the perspective about what security looks like in our future and what it looks like today. And in all honesty, we are talking about securing a future for a generation of individuals, securing the future for Gen Alpha, for my kids, for the next generation. Then that generation has to be in the room. In fact, that generation has to be leading the conversation of what we want the future to look like in security and privacy, and how we envision that to happen. And of course, this comes from training, and this training starts at home. We are a community, we are one, and there is no better time than now. I mean, this speech is not the end of it. I would love to connect with all of you and make sure that we are catering to all the communities across the board, including all students everywhere, underrepresented, represented, both of those populations, and making sure that we are catalyzing change every day in security and building and building and building for a better future. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening to me. And we are here to make the world better. So please reach out. Thank you so much.